Do your ideas seem run-of-the-mill? Can't seem to find those hidden jewels that will be a real breakthrough? You know there's something in those lists of ideas, but you just can't find it? The ability to find hidden patterns amongst the run-of-the-mill is a key innovation skill. I'll be right back.
This is the Killer Innovations Podcast with Phil McKinney. Keep in mind that the information and opinions expressed in this podcast are Phil's, and Phil's alone, and they don't necessarily reflect those of his past, current, or future employers. Now, here's Phil McKinney.
We've all been there. We've got that frustration after we've run that great brainstorming or ideation session. Or you're off collecting input, observations, photos, clippings, video clips, anything about an idea that you're working on. You've got this massive information, but you can't find that hidden jewel. You know it's in there. You're staring at the stack of information or these list of ideas, but nothing really jumps out that's really going to be that killer idea. The question becomes around how do you organize or how do you look at that information? Given any topic, we typically organize the ideas around what we view as an obvious structure. So for example, we use categories to naturally group product ideas, such as computer hardware, computer software, displays, and then everything gets grouped into those categories. So you look at the products or you look at the ideas around a given category. Now this approach is fine, but you could be missing hidden insights and patterns. The key here is change up the way you organize your information about your ideas, whether that be the list of ideas themselves or what you gathered up in your idea notebook or in your file folders. Change up the way you organize them. The approach I use is called 5 hats. Now the 5 hats is principally based on belief that there are a limited number of organization strategies, a limited number of ways that you can organize information, regardless of the topic area. And the 5 hats are alphabetical, time, location, continuum, and category. So again, alphabetical, time, location, continuum, and category. Now let's walk through each of these, and I'm going to give you some examples of how you apply 5 hats to looking at the information that you have differently. First off, let's talk about alphabetical. Now, alphabetical is pretty obvious. We all have alphabetical files on our desks. We use alphabetical to find things from the standpoint of names in our address book. So alphabetical is about organizing your ideas or information by alphabetical sequence. Now, this may sound silly when you're given your ideas, when you're looking at the ideas that come from an ideation session, or you're just looking at the information about a new innovation category that you're looking at. But what you get is a unique insight when you see 2 items next to each other that you normally would not associate. So go ahead, try this. Alphabetize the ideas that you get out of an ideation session, or alphabetize the information that you've got collected about a certain innovation area that's of interest for you or your business. Alphabetically organize it, and then look at those ideas that end up next to each other. It's a nice way to randomize patterns or groupings in order to find patterns of new ideas. And it's that unique combination, looking at it differently, that's going to give you something new when you look at alphabetizing. Next, let's talk about time. Now, this is organized by chronological sequence. Now, when you come up with an idea, look at the sequence or process used to benefit from the idea. It isn't just about the idea. Or look at the timeline of inventions leading up to that particular idea. As I've said before, new ideas are fairly rare. Ideas are built upon something that existed previously. And by looking at this way of time, looking at the timeline that led up to that idea, you may naturally see some various forks in that pattern, or you may be able to see what's next by looking back in history. So again, use time not only to see how your idea fits into a sequence, and therefore think about ideas on either side of that pipeline or process used to benefit from the idea, or look at the timeline for inventions leading up to your idea. But it's important to use time when looking for new patterns of your ideas. Third, let's talk about location. Now, location is organizing by geological or spatial reference. One way to look at this when you're looking at your list of ideas or the information is look where the idea could be used. If it's a household item, spatially locate the ideas around the house. Do they naturally group in one room, such as the living room or in the bedroom? Same thing with an office. Look at it geographically from around the world. Take the ideas and spatially locate them where they naturally would be used. Another way to look at location is define the spatial relationship of the components. If you have an idea and it's one of many components, spatially organize them and look for where you may have gaps and holes. Gaps and holes are opportunities for new ideas. Next, continuum. Continuum is organization by magnitude, such as ranking them from lowest to highest, worst to best. Now, this is what we typically use to rank ideas. We typically rank what we think are the best ideas to the worst ideas. The key here is rank differently. Don't try to use the same ranking. So try to rank them around areas such as most expensive to cheapest idea, fastest to bring to market to slowest to bring to market, the biggest idea from size and weight to the smallest idea by size and weight. Come up with a variety of different ways rather than just trying to always rank them in the same way from worst to best. Again, you might find an idea that pops up and comes to the top of the list with a unique organization structure, or you may find two ideas that sit next to each other in the ranking. They may in fact kick you to come up with a new idea when looking at those two patterns. And last is category. Now, category is organization by similarity or relatedness. Now, in many cases, websites are structured this way, such as eBay organizes all the books in one area and all the consumer electronics in another area. Now, the key here is to change up the obvious categories. Now, normal categories would be things like organizing by price or organizing by type, such as books, consumer electronics, software. Why not try to switch this up by organizing by color, by weight, by size? Come up with another set of categories and rank your ideas or rank the areas or information that you have about an innovation area of interest and look at creating a new category, again, looking for those patterns that can emerge when you take a different view of the information that you have. Now, the whole purpose of applying 5 hats is to change your perspective. Now, we all tend to get stuck in ruts. I get stuck in ruts, you get stuck in ruts. We all get stuck in these recurring patterns, particularly when we've been in an industry for a long period of time. Now, what happens is when we're stuck in these ruts, we tend to apply what seems to be obvious rules. Your industry is always organized around a certain category type of information. You always organize it in the same way, whether it be by price, by feature, by type, whatever it is. The point I'm trying to make here is break the rules. Get out of the rut. You need to look for the non-obvious patterns. You need to look for those unique and strange combinations. So when you run through the 5 hats, look for the ideas just above and below the one that you're looking at. And look at how you might be able to combine those to come up with yet another idea. Look for those non-obvious linkages. When opposites are linked or sitting next to each other, look for ways to make them work together. If you see the opposite and you go, there's no way these two can work together, find a way to make them work. It's this ability to see the non-obvious that will lead you to that killer idea. Now, the other thing here is practice the 5 hats. This is just one of those skills that should just become natural to you. Every time you look at something and you're organizing it a certain way, think in the back of your mind, how could I apply the 5 hats and look at this a different way? My suggestion is apply the 5 hats regularly, not just when you're running ideation sessions, but apply them to your everyday life to get into the practice of looking at information and organizing it differently, such as your shopping list. Now, typically we organize a shopping list in no random order, but what happens if you organized it alphabetically? What happens if you organized it by location? So what happens if you knew you had to go to the grocery store, the drugstore, the dry cleaners, etc., and you laid it out by location? Does that give you some insight? Maybe it makes your trip more efficient. But the key here is not to solve your problem of being more efficient in shopping. It's the practice of applying 5 hats every day to everything you do, not from the standpoint of getting new insights, but in retraining your mind such that you will look at how you organize your information and look at a variety of different ways of organizing to find these patterns. Other things that you could practice with is your to-do list, your vacation plans. Look at applying 5 hats regularly for this to become a natural skill. Now, through practice, it will become a natural part of finding hidden patterns in your ideas, and ultimately it will lead to you finding that next killer innovation. This week's killer question is going back to an old one that came back from one of the original questions in the first 10 or 12 shows. But really this time we're taking a unique new look. Those assumptions around industry structure is one of those ruts that hinder our ability to see what's possible. So, take the killer question. What are the assumptions that my industry operates under? What are the assumptions that my industry operates under? Now list out all the assumptions, then organize your ideas using the 5 hats. Organize them alphabetically, organize them by time, organize them by location, organize them by continuum, organize them by category. And then for each of the 5 hats, come up with at least 5 new ideas. Look at the non-obvious links and patterns. Look at actually how the 5 hats applies directly to your industry assumptions. Is your industry organized around time, around location, around categories? And how do you change those up? How do you change the category? How do you change the location? So for each of the 5 hats, come up with at least 5 new ideas. So that's 25 new ideas that you're going to come up with after you've gone through and answered the initial question. Force yourself to look beyond. Change your perspective. And I'm going to bet that somewhere in those 25 new ideas that you come up with is a killer one. This week's closing thought is on creativity. Now, the act of creativity is overcoming the rules, the habits, and the peer pressure that dominates our daily activities. Let's face it, we're stuck in the ruts. We get stuck in habits. The organization that we work with, whether it be a family structure or a business structure, or even a nonprofit structure, defines certain rules that limits our ability to be creative. Habits, the way we've done things, it's worked for us in the past, we're going to continue to do it the same way. Or just peer pressure. You don't want to look like a wacko amongst your friends and family and co-workers. Remember, the act of creativity is overcoming these rules, these habits, this peer pressure. George Lewis, the author, put it clearly and succinctly when he said, "Creativity can solve almost any problem. The creative act, the defeat of habit by originality, overcomes everything." Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Please send your feedback, your questions, your suggestions to podcast@killerinnovations.com. You can also post your comments directly on the show notes at killerinnovations.com. You can also post your comments under the Killer Innovations group on Facebook. Also, feel free to link in with me. Send me an invite to podcast@killerinnovations.com. You can also reach me on Skype at Phil_McKinney. I will be going on tour in North America and Europe this fall on what we call the Innovation and Design Tour. I'll be in North America in August and September, and I will be in Western Europe in October. Stay tuned, and I'll be posting the dates and the cities. It's going to be a limited number of dates and a limited number of cities, but I'll get those posted up as soon as those get locked in. Hopefully, we'll be able to find a time that we can get together. I will be posting those both to the blog, to the events page, to the Facebook group site, and also I'll be mentioning it in the podcast. Now, if you didn't notice, I did those in alphabetical order, one of the 5 hats. Thanks again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to the podcast. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.